J.M. Another story from the memoirs of Sherlock Holmes. Chapter 4. Enigmatic Allure. I initially accepted the invitation from the professor not because I was drawn to his personality. At least, that wasn't the case at first. After 2 meetings, it became apparent that he held quite avant-garde views. Conversing with the professor was stimulating yet perilous. Even in my youth, my intuition sensed the danger. Rather, it was Cheryl Fulbright who initially captivated me. Her striking beauty could easily captivate any man. There was no coquettishness in her melancholic eyes, yet this only served to enhance her allure. To have her, even as an envoy of the professor, come to visit me, this filled me with a thrill of joy. After the second meeting with the professor, she began visiting me regularly, often not even 2 weeks apart. Sometimes she would come to convey the professor's assignments, while other times she simply checked on my progress at school. These visits were all official, conducted in the reception room with the permission of the headmaster, yet to me, they felt like secret rendezvous between us two. It was the premonition of love, a sensation I was experiencing for the first time. With each meeting, I was increasingly drawn to her. It was not just a passionate feeling a young person feels towards an older woman, yet for me, at the age of 17, it was something more intense. On the other hand, for her, meeting me seemed to be merely part of her duty. She must have been aware of my feelings. A woman's intuition in such matters is sharp. However, she never showed any inclination to reciprocate my feelings. So, when she easily accepted my request to meet outside of school, I was rather deflated. The once boring town of Sheffield suddenly transformed into a rosy world. The countryside and forests, changing with the deepening autumn, suddenly seemed full of beauty. The harvested golden wheat fields, the exposed earth, the changing colors of the trees to red and yellow, all these things that I had previously taken for granted suddenly leaped into my consciousness. Simply having her by my side changed my perception of the world around me. Changes also occurred in my daily life. Rumors began to circulate about Cheryl and me. In a small town like Sheffield, this was inevitable. Students from Hamilton boarding school were already conspicuous in town. Add to that the presence of a somewhat conspicuous woman walking with a student, and it's no wonder that the tongues of the townspeople wagged. There was nothing improper about the relationship between Cheryl and me, but it was enough to provide fodder for gossip. In fact, I was infatuated with her, so the rumors circulating in town were not entirely baseless. However, Cheryl never compromised her dignity. From her words and gaze, I could tell she had some affection for me, but she never showed any sign of reciprocating my feelings. She always behaved towards me as a guardian, as an older woman. Perhaps it was also a warning to herself. At that time, she must have been around 20 years old. Although the age difference wasn't significant, to me at that time, she seemed much older. As autumn drew to a close and the Christmas season approached, Frank Tottenham, my roommate in the dormitory, asked me how I intended to spend the winter vacation. When I replied that I planned to return home to Nottingham, he looked surprised. "Oh, so even a guy, such as you, will be spending Christmas with your family?" His words carried a hint of sarcasm. "I don't see anything strange about that. Are you not going home?" "I am. Everyone does. I just thought you were special." "Special?" I still didn't see what he meant. "What about the lady?" he said. "It would be inappropriate to leave your woman alone on the Christmas day. Such a deed is unbecoming of a gentleman. It's a sin." Here we go again. I lost interest in the conversation and turned to my study desk. Frank was a friendly guy, but his talkativeness was his flaw. According to him, Cheryl was nicknamed Lady among the students at Hamilton. He was simply following suit, but the nickname grated on my nerves. I believed that conversation should have some meaning, so I usually paid no heed to such frivolous chatter. However, when it came to Cheryl, it was different. I should not be at fault for not telling unrelated people her name. Despite my reluctance, Frank's insensitive mentioning of her name angered me. "Hey, what's the deal with her? Tell me in secret." Even when I turned away, he continued unfazed. "Asking for secrecy doesn't make sense. Once I told him, it would surely become the talk of the entire school. Listen, Frank. She's just someone sent by someone else to see me. We're nothing special." I turned to face Frank and jabbed my finger into his chest. He seemed to be pushed back by my aggression, exaggeratingly arching his body backward. "You seem suspiciously defensive. Everyone's talking. They say you're a couple." Honestly, I didn't mind being told like that, but how could I explain that it wasn't true? I was annoyed by the rumors that reached my ears thanks to him, and I was tired of hearing my friends whispering words behind my back. "If you don't stop, I'll get angry." I stood up and approached him, who was sitting on the edge of the bed. "Don't get so worked up." Today, he was particularly annoying. He seemed to enjoy my agitation and arguments. "Everyone envies you. Trapped in this dull place for months with nothing but boring daily routines. No matter how much you study, instead of getting smarter, you feel like you're going crazy. But then, you get to go on dates with the lady every weekend. And this lady happens to be a stunning beauty. You could at least share a bit of your sweet nothings." Frank, born into a merchant family in London, had a slight hint of a working-class London accent. "As I said before, she's not my lover. She just has business and comes here." "You say she has business every week?" Being told that, I suddenly found myself at a loss for words. I couldn't talk about preparing for Oxford through connections. It wasn't something I could tell my friends who were earnestly studying at this time of impending entrance exams. First of all, the relationship between the professor and me was not something that could be called a connection, and I was still undecided about my future school. Why did the professor make such an offer to a mere student like me? It was already a fait accompli that I had accepted this offer, but I had not yet given a formal answer. I was forbidden to consult with my parents about this matter, but I couldn't decide on my future school without informing them. Eventually, the circumstances would become clear when the time came, but Cheryl had not mentioned anything about it yet. It had been 3 months since the first meeting with the professor. Perhaps it was time to ask. "See, you can't answer." Frank, interpreting my silence in a different light, triumphantly said, "Not having an answer is as good as admitting it." No, I was just lost in thought. To the presumptuous Frank, I made a distracted excuse. "Humph. You don't have to come up with reasons. You're a boring guy." Saying so petulantly, he lay down on the bed, turning his back to me.